Leslie Palacio went to meet her childhood friend, who had ties to her family. The next day when she returned, her friend hadn't heard anything either, which made their close friends start to worry. They never expected that the guy they had trusted and had a relationship with could be connected to Leslie's disappearance. On May 5, 1998, in Las Vegas, Nevada, Leslie Palacio went missing. She was the second of 5 daughters of Araceli Palacio. Although she was not the biological sister, she took on that role within her family. Leslie worked hard in house cleaning services and helped her sisters with everything they needed. She often prepared meals for them and ensured they had everything they needed while their mother was away. As Leslie grew up, she began working to help support her family financially. After some time, she enrolled in university, where she studied laboratory technology. She always encouraged her sisters to pursue their education and strive for a better life. Leslie wanted to help her mother, Araceli, work less. She suggested opening her own cleaning service instead of continuing to work for someone else. Leslie had a lot of experience, and many clients valued her as a reliable employee. Araceli agreed, and together they established the Palacio Cleaning Service. They planned everything carefully, and by August 2020, just a year later, the business landed its first significant contract. The family was thrilled and saw it as the beginning of a new life. Leslie played an active role in the business while continuing her studies and work, ensuring that everything ran smoothly. Unfortunately, their happiness was short-lived. On Saturday, August 28, 2020, 22-year-old Leslie went to meet a man named Rangel Ibarra, who was 25 years old. While he wasn't a close friend to her or her family, they had grown up together. The Palacio and Rangel Ibarra families had a good relationship. Guadalupe, Eric's mother, was Leslie's godmother. Although Araceli and Guadalupe were once very close friends, they had grown a bit distant over time. According to the Palacio family, there was no argument or misunderstanding between Leslie and Eric. They were simply busy and hadn't spoken or seen each other for a few weeks. However, Leslie and Eric had a close relationship in childhood and adolescence, attending the same events and celebrating holidays together, almost like siblings. That night, Leslie had initially planned to spend time with her sister Carolee and her friends. Unfortunately, the girls left before she could join them, and by the time Leslie was ready, they were already too far away. She didn't want to go too far from home, so she spoke with her mother, who assured her that she didn't have to go anywhere if she didn't want to. Eventually, Leslie started chatting with Eric. They were talking on video call in the evening, and by the end of that Saturday, August 28th, she decided to meet him. Eric arrived in the middle of the night, and according to the messages Leslie sent to Carolee, they went to the casino. They spent some time there and everything seemed to be going well. Nothing seemed unusual at first. However, at 4 a.m., Leslie sent a message to her sister Carolee, saying she needed to tell her something. When Carolee asked what was wrong, there was no response. After waiting for an hour without hearing back, Carolee decided to call Leslie, but by 5:40 a.m., Leslie's phone was turned off. Carolee wasn't overly worried at first. After all, Leslie was with Eric, whom she trusted. Carolee figured that Leslie had either turned off her phone or the battery had died, so she chose not to disturb their mother, who was already asleep. The next day, around 11 a.m., Carolee started messaging her sister again, but this time it was their mother, Araceli, who responded. It was the weekend, and the Palacio family had woken up later than usual. Araceli went to check on Leslie but quickly realized that her daughter was missing. When she asked her other daughters, they replied that Leslie was with Eric. Concerned, Araceli called the Rangel family but no one answered. This was strange. They intended to reach out, but Leslie's phone was still turned off, and the Rangel family wasn't picking up either. The Rangel family didn't answer the calls, and both Araceli and Curley began to feel anxious. They considered going to the police to report Leslie missing, but decided to wait a bit longer. Eventually, Guadalupe, Eric's mother, finally answered the phone. She spoke with Araceli and mentioned that she didn't know where Eric was, and that she wasn't particularly concerned since he was an adult. Guadalupe suggested that they were both old enough to take care of themselves and advised them to wait until they returned home. The Palacio family found Guadalupe's reaction strange. If you don't know where your son and your daughter are, especially when they are practically like family, it's natural to worry. The indifference shown by Guadalupe was unusual. In the first few hours of trying to contact the Rangel family, no one answered. Leslie's sisters even went to the Rangel home, and although they could hear people inside, no one opened the door. When they managed to reach another member of Eric's family, one of his sisters picked up the call. She was in good contact with the Palacio sisters and provided them with a description of Eric's car and his phone number. She told them where Eric usually hung out, and with that information, the Palacio family continued their search. They informed the Rangel family that they were planning to file a missing person report, hoping Eric's parents would do the same. However, Guadalupe, Eric's mother, insisted that she wouldn't be taking any such action. When Leslie's family arrived at the police station in Nevada, they were told that it would take 72 hours before an official search could begin. Since Leslie was 22 years old and with a 25-year-old man, the authorities suggested that they could have simply gone off together, despite the lack of a romantic relationship between them. However, Leslie's family strongly disagreed with this assessment. She had a job, was involved in the family business, and was known as a responsible young woman who never missed her commitments and always returned home on time. The possibility of her running away seemed implausible. Without immediate help from the police, Leslie's family took matters into their own hands. They printed posters and distributed them in the area around the casino where Leslie had been that night, as well as near both their home and Eric's. They also began to discuss the situation on social media, posting Leslie's photo everywhere they could. Gradually, more people started to hear about her disappearance and shared the information. However, the Leslie family received a flood of false tips and leads, including one demanding $10,000 for Leslie's return. This message came through Instagram, and the family promptly reported it to the police. Thanks to this alarming message, the police began to take the case more seriously. They tried to trace the origin of the message, but their efforts led to nothing concrete. It became clear that these were just cruel individuals preying on the family's emotions in hopes of making money. Nevertheless, this prompted the police to intensify their search for both Leslie and Eric. Initially, Eric was considered a possible victim as well, since his family hadn't reported him missing. The police were attempting to locate him through friends and at his workplace to gather information about the events of that night. On September 1, 2020, 3 days after Leslie's disappearance, the police held a press conference to share crucial information regarding the case. The police reported that they were unable to pinpoint Eric's location. However, they managed to find his father, Jose Rangel, who was 45 years old. This raised suspicions. Several neighbors noted unusual behavior from the Rangel family in the days following Eric's disappearance. They reported that Eric's mother and 2 sisters were seen removing items from their home. While initially thought to be a simple act of decluttering, it seemed more like they were preparing to leave the house entirely. Boxes were being loaded into a truck, and it became apparent that the family was becoming increasingly reclusive, rarely seen in the neighborhood. Neighbors observed that the family was now venturing out at odd hours, either late at night or early in the morning, which was unusual for them. In fact, during that period, the only family members spotted were Guadalupe and Eric's two sisters. Neither Eric nor his father had been seen for several days. The police found this behavior troubling. They reached out to Eric's mother and sisters to ask for their testimonies, but they refused. The authorities were unable to compel them to cooperate as there was no legal obligation to do so. Despite having a close relationship with the Palacio family, the Rangel family seemed unwilling to assist in the search for Leslie or provide any information about Eric. It was particularly puzzling given that Eric was a member of their family, yet they claimed not to know his whereabouts for several days. This lack of concern was striking, as one would expect them to be worried. Eventually, the only family member who agreed to speak with the police was Eric's sister, who had previously informed Leslie's sisters about his activities. She mentioned that on the day of Leslie's disappearance, the 29th, she saw her brother come home looking nervous. He packed some of his belongings and mentioned wanting to go somewhere with their father, though he did not specify where. This statement led the police to believe that Eric might be hiding something. A crucial piece of evidence came from security camera footage from the casino they had visited. The footage clearly showed Leslie and Eric arriving late at night, around 12:30 a.m. In the security footage, Leslie and Eric appeared calm and friendly as they interacted with each other. There were no signs of anything unusual. Leslie didn't seem to be under the influence of alcohol. The last recorded sighting of them was at the casino, where they left around 2 a.m. in Eric's car. This footage became crucial evidence establishing Eric as the last person known to have seen Leslie alive. With this information, the police obtained a warrant to arrest Eric and his father, Jose Rangel. As they worked to locate Eric's phone, they uncovered some strange facts. Eric owned multiple phones, including several burner phones and others without SIM cards. Analyzing the phone records, the police suspected that Eric might have been involved in dubious dealings, possibly related to illegal activities. Although they could not pinpoint the exact nature of these dealings, the evidence suggested he was connected to something illicit, potentially involving the trade of banned substances. This behavior is often seen among individuals involved in criminal activities. One of Eric's burner phones pinged on the 29th, the same day Leslie was last seen, with the signal originating from Bays del Fuego National Park, located 75 kilometers from the casino where they had been. Eric had called a friend and spoke to him for a few minutes. The police contacted this friend to obtain his testimony. He confirmed that Eric had asked him to come to the park to help him, stating that he couldn't do it himself because he didn't want to be caught on camera. When pressed for details, Eric reportedly said that he had taken someone's life. The friend claimed he was unable to assist Eric, and it was unclear whether he had actually gone to the park, as he had left his phone at home. The police were left questioning the validity of the friend's story, and whether he truly was telling the truth about his involvement, or if he was trying to distance himself from the situation. Following this revelation, the investigation led to more individuals being identified for questioning. The police asked residents of the city to share any photos of Eric and his father in case someone had seen them. Although the police tried to act as quickly as possible, communication with the Palacio family was not very productive. According to Leslie's sisters, they received updates at the same time, and from the same sources as everyone else. They felt they should have been informed of new developments more promptly, particularly details that weren't reported by the media. As a result, Leslie's family lost faith in the police, believing they were not doing everything possible to find her. Tensions rose when the media reported that a new video recording had been found from a neighbor's surveillance camera. This footage was not disclosed in the news, and the police refused to provide detailed explanations about what it showed. According to the police, the video clearly showed Leslie and Eric arriving home between 5 o'clock and 6 a.m. It was evident that at that moment, Leslie appeared to be a bit intoxicated. They both looked drunk. The video showed them arriving home at around 6:30 p.m. Eric exited the house alone and without a shirt. He got into his car, and about half an hour later, at 7 p.m., he returned with another man. The man's appearance matched Eric's father, leading to the conclusion that it was indeed him. They both entered the house, and approximately 20 minutes later, Eric emerged carrying Leslie in his arms. Based on the footage, it was assumed that the girl was Leslie. However, it was unclear whether she was alive at that moment. The video depicted her as not moving, and some officers speculated that Leslie might have already been dead. This video did not get released to the media due to its graphic nature, which could have caused significant distress to Leslie's family. Nonetheless, law enforcement informed the public about the events captured in the footage to raise awareness regarding the ongoing investigation and to encourage vigilance if anyone spotted Eric or his father. Although the body had not been found initially, the case was classified as a murder. More than a week after Leslie's disappearance, on September 11, 2020, her body was discovered near Bays del Fuego Park, the last location from which Eric's phone had transmitted a signal. This discovery intensified suspicions against him. While the results of the forensic examination were not made public, the cause of Leslie's death remained unknown, and no visible traces were found on her body. The only information regarding the state of her remains came from family members. A neighbor indicated that Leslie's body had been identified through DNA analysis, as it had been burned. It was believed that Eric may have burned the body to eliminate evidence. However, this information was unofficial, and it seemed unlikely that official details would be released, given the police's limited information on the case. Another significant finding occurred during a search of the Rangel Ibarra household, where blood traces were discovered in Eric's room. It was confirmed that the blood found in Eric's room was human. However, the police chose to withhold certain details about the case, leaving it unclear whether tests had been conducted to determine if the blood belonged to Leslie. A day after Leslie's body was discovered, Eric's car was found abandoned in a parking lot in California. On the same day, Eric, his father, and two sisters left their home and ceased all communication. They took all their belongings and stopped responding to calls and messages, not only from the Palacio family and the police, but also from their friends. They vanished without a trace. Investigators speculated that Eric and his father had fled to Mexico. This conclusion was based on testimonies from friends and relatives in California, who reported that Eric and his father had approached them after the disappearance, seeking assistance in crossing the border. Due to their legal troubles, none of the friends or family were willing to help them. Supposedly, this is what they claimed, but it didn't accurately reflect the situation during those days. The police managed to trace the location of Eric's father's iPad, which was found in Mexico. However, this raised further criticism. The authorities did not specify where exactly in Mexico the iPad's signal was coming from. Given Mexico's vast size and numerous states, pinpointing the location could have significantly aided the investigation, allowing the search to focus on a specific area rather than the entire country. Unfortunately, the police only stated in one of their press conferences that the two men had likely fled to Mexico. Naturally, the Palacio family felt that the police had not performed their duties effectively. At the university Leslie attended, a farewell was held in her honor. Her neighbors also participated in a touching tribute. Leslie was a significant figure in her community, and everyone spoke highly of her, emphasizing how much she cared for her family. The community urged the authorities to apprehend Eric and his father, expressing a strong desire for the case to be resolved as soon as possible. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, but information about Eric and his father was scarce. It was as if they had vanished from the earth. The victim's family continued to urge the police to find them. By 2021, there was still no substantial update. Then, on February 12, 2021, the police reported a significant development. Jose Rangel Ibarra was arrested on January 19, 2021, in San Diego, California. On January 31st, he was brought to jail in Nevada. The charges against him included murder and destruction of evidence. At that time, it was still unclear whether the police had conducted an inquiry about the whereabouts of his son. The only information available was that Eric Rangel Ibarra, 25 years old, was hiding from authorities and was most likely in Mexico. No one knew exactly where he was or who he was with. The police suspected that his father would not reveal his son's location, and there was also no communication with other family members. His mother and two sisters are not involved in any court proceedings, so the police cannot question them without their consent. Eric's father claims they are also implicated in the crime. Eric has no distinguishing marks that would make him easy to identify. He has no tattoos on his face, and since many people wear masks, it has become increasingly difficult to recognize individuals. This suggests that Eric has managed to hide effectively in his current location. This case is particularly complex and contentious, not only because the police initially hesitated to assist the family, but also due to the lack of critical information, especially regarding the location of Eric's iPad. Numerous unofficial theories have emerged. One theory suggests that because of the multiple phones Eric owned and the last message Leslie sent to her sister, where she indicated she had something important to share, Leslie may have discovered that Eric or his family was involved in human trafficking or drug trade. It's possible she refused to participate or was considering contacting the police, leading to Eric becoming nervous and potentially harming her. However, there could be alternative explanations as well. He wanted a relationship which she refused, leading to his anger. There are many theories surrounding this case. Without a report from the medical experts, it's difficult to determine what actually happened, whether she sustained injuries from violence or if there were other factors involved. The reality remains unclear. Share your theories in the comments. Let's discuss what might have occurred. It's crucial to remember that Eric is evading justice for a horrific crime, while his father is already in jail. Eric is likely hiding in Mexico, though he may have sent his iPad there to throw the police off his trail. Friends and relatives who provided evidence may have been misleading, adding further complexity to the situation. There are numerous details still unknown, but the fact remains that Eric Rangel is still at large, which is deeply troubling. Thank you for watching. If you found this story intriguing, be sure to check out the next one. See you there.